Right then, pull up a chair, or better yet, just find a soft patch of sand. Make yourself comfortable. Sometimes, when the sun is properly dipping low and the whole sky turns a bruised sort of gold, I used to come down to this exact spot. I'd stand where the black volcanic grit meets the tide, right here at the edge of the great Kai Nui, and I'd just stare at that thin, hazy blue line way out there on the edge of the world. The horizon. I reckon I spent half my life convinced that line held all the answers. I honestly believed that my Maʻona, my true spark, was something I had to chase down, like some massive pelagic fish out in the deep blue, bigger, faster, and always just beyond the next wave. If I could just crack that line, just paddle my vow hard enough to get past the breaking swell, then I'd finally arrive. I'd be whole. I'd be sorted. That was the old way, the rule of more. It was an exhausting way to live, if I'm honest. My mind was like a crowded market, always buzzy, always on. More accomplishments to impress the ohana, more possessions to stack in my house, just more stuff to try and fill the silence that felt so bloody uncomfortable. It was like I was running a race with no finish line, leaving myself completely breathless and hollowed out in the middle of a vast, unforgiving ocean. Think about it. We're always looking for the next job, the next love, the next sunset that's somehow going to be better than the one right in front of us. It's a trick of the light, isn't it? The horizon looks solid from here. It looks like a real place, but it's a ghost. The harder you paddle toward it, the further it retreats. It's always next. It's never now. I was a master at next. I was so focused on what I didn't have, on the space out there, that I barely noticed the cool water swirling around my ankles. I missed the smell of the damp earth and the frangipani. I missed the way the lagoon inside the reef was already perfect. It was already enough. I just couldn't see it through all the want. One evening, the swell out on the Kai Nui was particularly high. You could hear it miles away, a deep, thundering roar as the waves smashed against the outer barrier reef. The whole ocean seemed to be screaming about its power, about wanting more shoreline, about always needing to expand. It felt angry, chaotic, just like the inside of my head. I was out there, struggling, straining against a current that didn't want me, chasing a horizon that was actively trying to escape. I was absolutely knackered. My arms were screaming, and I was making zero ground. Then something just clicked, or maybe it broke. I stopped paddling. I didn't fight. I didn't turn around. I just pulled the blade out of the water and let it rest across the gunnels. I took a breath, a real, deep, shaky breath that reached all the way down. I looked back over my shoulder, through the Ava, the sacred pass, and I watched the swell roll right past me, continuing its pointless charge toward the edge of the world. I let my vad drift back into the silence, back to where I already was. And that, right there, was the moment everything changed. I stopped wanting more, and I found enough. So there I was, just drifting. The adrenaline from fighting the great Kai Nui, the big swell, was starting to drain away, leaving a kind of hollow echo in my chest. I sat in the middle of my va, the outrigger, and listened. Honestly, the silence was deafening at first. I'd spent so long surrounded by noise, both the physical crashing of the waves and the mental chatter of what's next. How can I get more? Why am I not there yet? That the stillness felt properly unnerving, like I'd stepped off a busy city street into an empty cathedral. I reckon my Maʻona was confused, too. It didn't know how to exist without needing to strive. But as the va glided further back, through the final channel of the Ava, the silence changed. It wasn't empty anymore. It was full of soft, rhythmic things. The gentle slap hush of the water against the hull, the distant, lazy creak of the palm fronds on the shore, the slow, deep heartbeat of the island itself. It was peaceful, properly peaceful. I was just watching the water. In the lagoon, the sand on the floor is white, which makes the water perfectly transparent. It's like a sheet of pure glass. You can see everything, clear as day, 15 feet down. The light from the setting sun was hitting the sand, turning the whole floor into a dancing mosaic of gold and turquoise. My eyes just sort of settled on a spot between two giant coral fans. They were waving slowly in the gentle current, like massive purple hands blessing the silence. And tucked right in the crux of them was a shell, just a single, perfect cowrie shell. Now look, it wasn't anything flashy. It wasn't the biggest shell in the lagoon. It certainly wasn't the rarest. It had a few small chips on the edge where the tide had knocked it about. But as I watched it, sitting there in its little sandy pocket, I felt this profound shift. A waterfall of understanding that just rushed over me. That shell was just enough. It hit me with the weight of a sun-warmed stone. The pursuit of more is the absolute poverty of the now. If I spent my life paddling toward the horizon, trying to get the biggest, the rarest, the loudest things, I would be rich in things, but utterly bankrupt in presence. I realized that if I somehow gained the whole bloody world, I'd only find myself reaching for the moon. And if I had the moon, I'd be straining my neck looking at the stars. I would never, not once, feel the warmth of the sand beneath my feet. That shell didn't need to be bigger. It didn't need to be different. It was already holding its space in the universe, complete and perfect. My whole philosophy was upside down. I thought contentment was a destination, a point on a map I had to work my guts out to reach. I thought I would feel enoughness once I had enough stuff, but I was wrong. Contentment is a frequency. It's a radio station you have to tune into right here in this moment. You don't get there, you allow it. I let my hand drift into the cool water, just watching the ripples I'd made. The old way, the striving, the anxiety, the noise of the Kai Nui, that was a prison. But this shell, this lagoon, this moment where nothing was happening and everything was complete, this was freedom.